first off, Jay, I want to talk about the last, 3, 4, 5 weeks, something like that, and where it's all gone wrong, really, I guess. Because, listen, and I've seen a lot of people start to do this in recent weeks, and they start to add some perspective to the entire season, the entire campaign and the whole. And I get that. And listen, I probably will do that in the grand scheme of things, in the fullness of time. At some point, I might sit there and go, yeah, but when I look back in hindsight, I don't think I didn't expect us to challenge for a title this season.
Yeah.
Right back in August, given the full midfield rebuilds, you lost your captain, your vice captain, etc., etc., etc. However, having said all of that, 5-6 weeks ago, we were potentially on for a quadruple, let alone a Premier League title. So there has been a point along the way in this last few weeks whereby something has started to go wrong, and I think there's been a couple of warning signs in a couple of performances. And what I will say as well is, throughout the season, there's been a lot of people now maybe saying it with the benefit of hindsight, saying, well, coming back from behind all the time wasn't sustainable, and you're always going to run out of legs at some point, and that intensity you play with, and that late goals and the subs, etc., 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 we're always going to come back to bite you on the arse. I mean, is it as simplistic as that for you? I mean, injuries have already played a part as well on the way. There's no two ways about that. We've lost key players, and youngsters have had to step up in a big way. But let's be perfectly honest about it. Key players have been back recently, and that's when the wheels have fell off. That's when it's unravelled. Yeah. So what do you put it, Andrew? Can you make any sense of it?
It feels like what happened tonight has been in microcosm how we've been since we came back after that international break. So, like, even the games we've won, like Brighton, we won. That was the first game back. We concede early, and then we miss a good few presentable chances in that one. Sheffield United, we end up winning the game. They get a pretty crap goal, and then Atalanta, the second leg, we go 1-0 up. Salah misses that chance, and then it kind of fizzles out. And I feel like it's kind of obviously you've got Man U in there as well, missing chances. It feels like that's all kind of coalesced into one performance today, where it's a scruffy as anything goal, bit of a schoolyard kind of goal to concede. We then have a decent period 10 minutes before half time. As much as Everton were very, very good today and they deserve to win, that period before half time, they've got Nunez, Diaz, how often have we said this, missing presentable chances. Yeah. Either of them go in, you go in at 1-1 and it's like, here we go. We only need to find a one goal and then, happy days. But that doesn't happen. So it's just these things that have been creeping in. It is unfortunate, the way, kind of looking at the season and as a whole. I've always thought, I thought 90 odd points would be beyond us, mid 80s, yeah. And we'll probably end up getting 80 something. But well, we'll have to wait and see how we do in the last couple of games. But we might end up with, 81, 82 points, which is, that'd win the league a lot of times in the 90s and stuff like that. So you think, well, if you're trying to look at it from the kind of whole season perspective, at the start of the season, if someone went, you'll get 80 odd points and you'll win the League Cup, then you go, all right. And then we'll go into next season with Klopp still as manager, because we didn't know Klopp was going to leave, and then build on that. But the way it's kind of depressing, the way it's flipped. If we'd have started badly and then we're doing all right now, I think we'd be looking into next season going, this is a decent side, but the way that it's, the wheels haven't, I wouldn't say fallen off. They've kind of they haven't fallen off spectacularly. They've sort of dropped off, inched off one by one. It's like, the back two tires on my car need replacing at some point. The car's still drivable, but it's like, I know it's going to have to be done at some point, and that's kind of what's happened. It's been a bit of a, it's very depressing, isn't it, with the fact that Jurgen's leaving, the way this is all unfolded.
Well, you've said it there, really. It is, and that makes everything 10 times worse. And I've said it for a while now. It feels like the Jurgen Klopp factor, and obviously the desire and the hunger and the want for that fairy tale ending has heightened the emotions throughout this. It's made the wins feel all the more brilliant, and it's made the defeats and the drop points along the way all the more crushing. I make you happy because we've all been guilty of romanticising Jurgen Klopp's exit, you know what I mean, and having him sail off into the sunset with more trophies under his belt, essentially. And unfortunately now, as I mentioned, you know, barring a miracle, which simply isn't going to happen, he's going to walk away with this season the Carabao Cup, which, you know, within itself is fine. You know, it's silverware ultimately, but it's not what it perhaps should have been, or certainly could have been, because you said it a moment ago. I think on reflection, like a top 4 finish, what should be a comfortable top 4 finish, touch wood, and a cup, a lot of people thought the season would have gone, oh yeah, I'll have a little bit of that. But then when you factor in where we were in the league and the fact it was in our hands not two weeks ago, and the Europa League thing, you think, oh, this really should have been a bit more, because I think we were all pleasantly surprised with how quickly this team sort of gelled and became a fully functioning force. You'd argue, obviously, in recent weeks, it most definitely isn't a fully functioning force, which again makes it all the more disappointing, because a lot of it, you know, it's both boxes, essentially, a lot of the problems. I think midfield, by and large, generally has done well. I thought it was decent as well tonight for lots of the game. There were certain problems in there as well, of course there were, but defensively it was poor, it was weak, it was a little bit fragile at times. And as we've already spoken about, you know, we've done the rounds when it comes to the final third. It was decision making, it was poor in front of goal. It was really below par at times, actually. And we're not going to spend too long dwelling on individual performances tonight, full stop, because it's not a night for that. What I do want to do before we look ahead to the game is, I've just loosely touched on it there, but like I guess this is likely now to be the end for Jurgen Klopp in terms of meaningful games of football. Like, there's a few more games of football to go, of course there are, and you know, the travelling fans, wherever they go, well, the fans inside Anfield are going to want to make it special, and we're going to want to win them games, because, you know, Jurgen Klopp deserves that as the bare minimum. But it's a shame, isn't it? That's what I can't sort of shake that feeling of it just being a shame, and that's such a weak word to use. But this Jurgen Klopp's time at Liverpool, his tenure, I'm not going to ask you to go into diatribes now about how much it means to you, etc., but it feels like that the ending should have been more fitting than this.
I think one of the most depressing parts about it was when we were muddling through around, I mean, the peak of the season was at Chelsea Carabao Cup win. We had God knows how many players out. And you're looking forward to this point and going, we're going to have Trent back, we're going to have Salah back, we're going to have... And, you know, I wouldn't individually slag them off too much, but it's those players that haven't really come to the fore. That Virgil, you know, there's been points this season where I've been going, is Virgil having his best season in a Liverpool shirt? He doesn't seem to have been at it the last few weeks. Just, you know, getting bullied today and stuff like that. As much as we were kind of needed a refresh of the midfield, you're looking back and you're like, oh, I'd love a bit of like peak Henderson, peak Milner on today, like people who can just see you over the line, who just have. But that's the frustrating thing, because he's like, well, we've got, in comparison to Arsenal, we've got a team full of winners. We've got Virgil there, we've got Mo, we've got Trent, we've got Andy Robertson, even McAllister is a new player for us. He's won a World Cup, and it, you know, that's been the depressing thing for me, is the time when I thought, right, these guys are really got to stand up and be imperious and say, we're the ones. I know City obviously know how to win because they're bloody treble holders and all that, but we know how to win. We know how to get this team over the line. You know, we know how to, when the chips are down, pull those wins out, and, you know, and at least get it to the last game of the season against Wolves and see what happens. But that just doesn't seem to have happened in the last couple of weeks. No,
and it's basically disappointing. I'm still trying to come to terms with it, if you've been told. Still trying to find the words.
Bit of a funeral atmosphere in here after this game, hasn't it?
It's post-mortem. I mean, ultimately, it's like the perfect shitstorm, essentially, isn't it? Because title hopes are pretty much done and dusted. You've lost to your biggest rival, Everton, you know what I mean? Obviously, Goodison Park doesn't help. It's Klopp's final derby. Klopp's on the brink of leaving, you know. Everton are definitely staying up. I'm pretty nonplussed about top. You know. But ultimately, you know, it is those things come back. And also the fact that for weeks now, you said it earlier on, the culmination, and it feels like Liverpool in a nutshell was there in one 90-odd minute performance tonight, because defensively too weak, not winning battles, getting bullied as you mentioned a moment ago, and more crucially than all of them things, not putting chances away at critical moments, which is criminal. And some of the goals and the manner which conceded tonight is also pretty damning, and not a good reflection on Liverpool as a whole.